So, you want to be an actuary. You want to study actuarial science. Look no further, and welcome to your crash course on everything actuarial science. Let's start with some definitions. What actually is an actuary? An actuary is a professional who applies analytical, statistical, mathematical, and strategic thinking skills to determine how likely a given scenario is to be a risk and the potential size of that risk. Okay, so I just said a bunch of things that you may or may not have heard before, and it is quite confusing, so let's break it down with an example. Let's say we have two people. One is a 24-year-old male who works as an accountant in an urban area, and the second person is a 35-year-old female who has two kids and works from home. An example of a scenario that an actuary would be involved in would be to calculate the likelihood of either person getting into a car crash. Now, what is actuarial science? Actuarial science is a discipline that assesses the financial risks in the insurance and financial fields using mathematical and statistical methods. The first question I usually get is, I'm in high school. What subjects do I need to take to get into actuarial science? So the subjects you need are mathematics and English. You will need to have a very strong basis of mathematics and have a decent English mark. As for the rest of your subjects, you are free to choose what you'd like. You don't need to take physics. However, I do suggest possibly taking accounting because it will just make your life a little bit easier. We are required to do accounting in our first year of uni, so it will just make your life easier having a basis of accounting. But honestly, other than that, you just need maths and you just need English. Whilst there isn't a requirement for the rest of your subjects, it is generally advised to have a really good standing, so your average is pretty high. You also don't need to take FS or AP maths. The universities will teach you everything that you need to know. The only advantage I would say is that it will make your life a bit easier because you won't be encountering new concepts. The same thing with accounting. However, it's not a requirement. So don't worry if you are not taking AP maths. I know a lot of my friends who didn't take AP maths and they thrived in university maths. So it really depends on you and how you attack the course going forward. But if you are a South African student, in addition to that, you're going to need to take your NBTs. Make sure you score in the upper proficient. The reason that the NBTs are counted is just in case we have an instance where there are too many students and they need to essentially cull or thin the herd. And if you're standing at a point where they need to pick between you and someone else, if your NBT mark is higher than the other person, then you'll get in. But yes, just try your best with your NBTs, try to get as high as mark as possible, and that's it. So to sum it up, you will need a good maths mark, a decent English mark, as well as a high average across the board, across your subjects. And if you're in a South African university, you are going to need to do pretty well in your NBT. If you have any further questions regarding admission, the best place to ask is to just email the admissions office of the university that you need the information from. They are usually pretty good at answering. And in fact, you'll find a lot of the handbooks are available online. First, you will need to search UCT Undergraduate Prospectus 2025. Click the link. And you're going to need to scroll all the way down to commerce. Keep scrolling, keep going all the way down until we get to the commerce faculty. Once in the commerce faculty, you'll find that actuarial science and quantitative finance have their own page. We're going to first take a look at guaranteed admission. We're going to look at band A, okay? You will need an FPS score of 500 or more. The way you find that out is you add up your top 7 subjects with their percentages. So 89 for English, for example, 72 for maths, and keep going until you have all 7 subjects. Once you've done that, you'll get a score out of 500, and you must make sure it's above 500 points. For your NBTs, you will need to score upper intermediate for both the AL and QL. You will need 80% for maths, 60% for English home language, and for English first additional language, you will need 80%. That's just band A, guaranteed admission. There's also band B and band C. For those who have IB diploma holders, and for anyone who wants to transfer for other universities, there's also information about that, as well as your A-levels, IGSE. Everything you need is on this booklet, so just take a quick read through. The next question I often get asked is, I'm good at maths. Will I succeed in actuarial science? Maths is important in the sense that it teaches you how to think. It teaches you how to problem solve, and that's why being good at mathematics correlates to being, I guess, well suited for actuarial science. So I won't lie, when I got to UCT, it was a bit of a shock when we kind of weren't doing maths and we were doing stats. And stats, I didn't take stats in high school, and stats was this foreign thing that you had to kind of switch your thinking style to. So just something to note, that just because you're good at maths does not necessarily mean you will enjoy actuarial science, because we do a lot of other things other than just maths. A few people who are computationally inclined may also find it frustrating that we do a lot of theory and memorizing based courses. We have business law as well. Then there's economics to a certain extent, a lot of essay writing in economics. Towards the end of your university career, you'll actually find that you're not doing a lot of mathematically based subjects. You'll be required to think, write essays, provide your opinion, write reports. And so it's very important to note that you need to be well-rounded as an actuarial science student. It becomes just as, if not more important, to be able to justify and communicate your reasonings and your conclusions as it is to answer mathematical problems. So the next question I get is, what courses do you take in the undergraduate year? This question can easily be found on any of the university's undergraduate handbooks. So let's actually go look at one of them. I'm going to look at UCT. So I'll say UCT undergraduate handbook. Graduate handbook 2024. Okay, awesome. Okay, I'm going to click Faculty of Commerce because that's where actuarial science belongs to, and we're going to scroll. You can either scroll down. Actuarial science for UCT is around page 36, but just search actuarial science. Let's see where it is. We go down. Right, so let's look at the Bachelor of Business Science specializing in actuarial science. Okay, so in first year, I won't go through all of them, I'll just look at the first year. As you can see, we have financial accounting, evidence-based management, computer science, microeconomics, mathematics. Again, there's a few mathematics courses. Then introduction to financial risk, financial reporting, which is another accounting courses, macroeconomics, and mathematical statistics. And those are the courses that you got to take in first year. It does look like a lot, and it is a lot, I won't lie. Actuarial science in first and second year is a lot of, you have to essentially be good at a lot of things and be good at juggling a lot of things. So pick your university, search their undergraduate handbook, and you'll be able to find what courses you exactly are going to be taking and when. The nice thing about this book is if you scroll down towards the end, we'll actually be able to see a little brief description of the particular courses that you want to get into and provide some information. That being said, I think it's important for me to now answer the question of the difference between BCom actuarial science and business science actuarial science. I don't know if this is specific to UCT only, but again, in this handbook, you'll be able to see what the difference is and what courses you take and what you don't take. Bachelor of Commerce in Actuarial Science is a 3-year program. After 3 years, you can start work or you can apply for honors. And the Bachelor of Business Science is a straight 4-year program with your honors year included. So after your 3 years, you can choose to go and work, or like I said, go into your honors. The only other difference is you won't get this cool hoodie if you're not on the honors year. But other than that, there is a board exam, which I'll talk about later, called Actuarial Risk Management at UCT, that you don't do if you're going to just do the 3 years. But you can always just write the board exam if that's something that doesn't interest you, and you can enter the working force a lot earlier than your friends, or at least a year earlier. Also, depending on your university, you should check out what different kinds of actuarial science programs they have. For example, at UCT, there's a Bachelor of Business Science in Actuarial Science specializing in mainstream actuarial science, and there's a Bachelor of Business Science in Actuarial Science specializing in quantitative finance. Those are the two Bachelor of Business Sciences, and you can also do the same for the Bachelor of Commerces. So check with your university what kind of actuarial science program they have. Maybe they'll have more than one. The quantitative finance ones are leaned more towards assets, and you do a few more finance courses, which are actually pretty cool. And whereas the mainstream actuarial science courses lean more towards traditional insurance type courses. Do I have to study actuarial science in university to be an actuary? The answer is no. At uni, you can study actuarial science or any maths and stats related degree. So you don't need an actuarial science degree to become an actuary. However, it will make your life easier as you will have learned all the basics, but it isn't a requirement. That being said, in many cases, having an actuarial science or related field degree can be beneficial for pursuing a career as an actuary. However, passing actuarial exams, the board exams, is also crucial. Some individuals do enter the field without a specific degree, but just by passing the board exams. It ultimately depends on the requirements of the employers that you're interested in working for and your own career goals. So no, you do not have to study actuarial science per se to become an actuary. It just makes your life easier, and you'll be able to get some exemptions to board exams, which I will note a bit later. Okay, so after you've finished your uni years, you're an actuary, right? Nope, you are not an actuary. You can call yourself a student actuary at most, but you're not a qualified actuary. You still need to pass a series of exams known as the actuarial board exams, which can take anywhere between 3 to 10 years, excluding your university years. Let's actually chat about board exams. Board exams in actuarial science refer to the series of professional examinations administered by an actuarial organization, such as the Actuarial Society of South Africa that we have here in South Africa. Essentially, depending on what country you belong to, there's going to be a supreme overlord. ASA for South Africa, IFOA for the UK, and many more. And they're the ones in which you write your board exams with. There are about 16 board exams that you need to pass. Yes, 16. These exams cover various topics in mathematics, statistics, finance, and actuarial science, and passing them is typically required to become a fully qualified actuary. Finally, you can call yourself an actuary. Once you've done your uni years, once you've done your board exams, all 16 of them, and after you've passed your final board exam, you need about 2 to 3 years of working experience before you can be called a fully qualified actuary. Once you become a fully qualified actuary, you're now known as a fellow actuary, no longer a student actuary. So, Sensei, what do you mean you have 16 exams you need to write? Yes, unfortunately, you do have 16 exams you need to write, but there's something called exemptions. Exemptions are basically when you get a required mark for a course in university that exempts you or allows you to not write that board exam again once you finish uni. For example, accounting, if you get 60% across your accounting courses or the band at which accounting belongs to, you'll be exempt from the actuarial board exam that has got to do with accounting. So when you're in university, your goal as an actuarial science student is to get as many exemptions as possible. Let's take a look at the exemption calendar. Once again, I'm going to look at the one for UCT. So whatever university you belong to, just make sure to go check. So we have A111. A111 is the new code for ASA, then it's got the old code, just to let you know, because they did change codes. And so when you're looking at past papers, it's important to know what exact courses you're looking for. It also has the IFOA code as well, because you can get some past papers from their website. That one, across stats in first year, stats second year, and 1 third year stats course at ECT, you need to have an average of 60. Once you get that, you would have been exempt from that exam and you won't have to write that actuarial board exam. So you can see how you can knock quite a few down in your university years if you study hard, put your head down, and try your best. That being said, different universities offer different amounts of exemptions. So that's another important thing to ask yourself if you are choosing which university to go study at. Check what and how many exemptions each university has available on their information on their website. Or you can just, like I said, email the actuarial faculty department and ask them and just find out. So essentially, if you get your board exam, if you get your exemptions, you can skip that board exam because you already passed it. You're a genius. The next question I get is, what jobs can I get? You can get a job pretty much in any industry you want. The typical ones are insurance, banking is becoming slowly more prevalent, but actuaries are needed almost everywhere. So you can find yourself almost anywhere. Usually graduates get jobs with companies that are actuarial training offices with ASA. Actuaries work in insurance, healthcare investment, banking, risk management, and many other places. So you're kind of spoiled for choice in which you want to go. The typical route for an actuary is to go into the insurance scheme, but you don't have to if you don't want to. On to some personal questions I get. What do I do on a day-to-day basis? I try my best to be a well-rounded individual because I will go insane if I'm just sitting at my desk all the time. But a lot of my university career is studying. Studying by myself. Sometimes I do study groups with my friends. But I guess my day-to-day this year has been, you wake up, go to the gym, start my classes for the day because they are a bit later in the day. I didn't have that luxury in first and second year. And come home and then I work until I go to bed. So that doesn't sound very interesting. And depending on the way you work, you can obviously adjust and see what works best for you. But I will say I do spend a large amount of my time studying. Just something to note if you think you're gonna have the best year of your life studying actuarial science. You can balance. However, that being said, I do know a lot of people who do party and still have a lot of fun. That's great for them. But honestly, I feel a little bit too guilty if I was just out and about living my life when I know I have work to study. But honestly, how your day-to-day looks like will be on you. You can actually check out my TikTok. I do a few a day in the lives and you can see what I get up to there. But honestly, try to find your own schedule. That's on you. Whatever looks best for you is what's going to work. A lot of people's lives look very different. I will say I don't see my non-actuarial science friends during the term, mostly because of timetable clashes, but also because I really should be studying. Like, I don't know why I'm outside. I should be studying. But yeah, try your best to do activities on campus. I joined tennis. I had to because I was just studying. So that's a nice way to just get some You can't just work. You will burn out. Unfortunately, as an actuarial science student, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to burn out at least once a year if you don't look after yourself. So try your best to keep a nicely balanced life. Is it hard? Is a question I get a lot. My answer is yes, it is hard. Actuarial science is difficult. It's not impossible. It can feel like it is impossible when you're consistently failing. I guess the issue that I have is actuarial science students are required to do 1,001 things and 1,001 things well. You're essentially asked to juggle on a tightrope, on a unicycle, and the tightrope's actually on fire, and there's just a pit of snakes there. So essentially it's like you gotta just do 1,001 things. Or and you're also blindfolded. So yeah, actuarial science is hard. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna say that it's okay. It's hard. It's a very challenging degree, and often you will question yourself whether or not this is something you want to do for the rest of your life. And the follow-up question I get is it worth it? I can't answer that question because I haven't finished the degree yet. So check on me in about like 5 to 10 years time. For a lot of people who are working, they do say that the suffering that they endured in university was worth it in the end. But I can't answer that question because I haven't got there. That being said, people do fail the same board exams over and over again, and they fail the same courses over and over again. So if you're the kind of person who kind of falls apart, then it's important to note that that is a real possibility, and it isn't the end of the world. I know it can feel like the end of the world when people who started first year with you are now in third year and you're still in second year, for example, you're a year behind, you're graduating later. It can feel very alienating and alone. But honestly, in the grand scheme of life, 1 or 2 years is not going to kill you. And if you're serious about pursuing this degree, you will get there. You will win eventually. Just keep trying. Don't feel demoralized. Honestly, failure is something that you're going to become quite acquainted with. Or maybe you're one of those who just passes everything first time around. That's cool. Happy for you. But for those of you who feel demoralized because you're just trying your best and it's just never enough, don't be. Failing is not something that you should ever be afraid of or ashamed of. Being surrounded by high achievers consistently can feel you are a high achiever yourself. You're studying actuarial science, but there's levels to everything. So as much as you're a high achiever, someone could be, an even higher achiever. But there's always that one person per year that is getting 100% in everything, and you're literally getting 40, and you're like, what are you doing that I'm not doing? So it can feel like you're just not meant to be part of that degree because you're not excelling at 1,001%. But one thing I learned recently when I was doing some back work is my business owner, he was telling us that he got 56% as an average before he started working. And he's a fully qualified actuary. He's very well known and respected in his industry. So yes, leaving university with a high GPA, it's great for the ego. But if you don't have that, don't knock yourself down. And I'm not trying to scare you guys. All this talk about failure and how hard it is. I just think it's important to acknowledge, especially people who are trying, embarking on starting the journey of actuarial science, to note that there are people who have succeeded and do succeed when they were disregarded and looked over and essentially told that maybe there are a few people I know who are now, just from our interactions that I had at my back work, who were told by their professors that maybe they should leave actuarial science. And now they're literal giants of the industry. So don't give up. But I will say actuarial science is not for the faint of heart. I've cried my body weight in tears more times than I can count. I have failed more times than I can even talk about. Yeah, I could sit here all day. This year alone, I have failed so many times. But it's important to have representation of people who are not, having the typical straight A's path. So you know that we're all going through it. We just continue. We move. If we don't laugh, we'll cry. So keep going. That being said, you may find all of this a breeze. Some of us who are taking the scenic route, you may just leave us in the dust, and that's okay too. The people who I don't think are suited for actuarial science, if you do not like anything to do with mathematics or statistics, and you aren't strong in them, you're really struggling at a high school level, then I don't think actuarial science would be a smart move for you. Obviously, there's an exception to every rule, but considering the level of mathematical knowledge and skill and problem solving that is required, as if you're really, really, really struggling with mathematics at a high school level, then it might be worth to establish and think about whether actuarial science is the right course for you. Generally, those who struggle a lot in high school don't make it. But like I said, I'm never going to tell someone what to do. And who knows, you could be the next exception to the rule. But I will generally say, though, that people who struggle with mathematics at a high school level don't recommend studying actuarial science. So the mentality you need to have is never die. Even though you're being punched in the gut every 5 seconds, and as soon as you stand up and get your feet underneath you, you're punched in the face. Even though that happens, if you're asking yourself, are you a good fit for actuarial science? Other than the technical requirements for maths and whatnot, what I would say is, if you're a little bit audacious, a little bit tenacious, a little bit insane, dare I say, I think you could be a good fit for actuarial science. I do get a lot of DMs and a lot of questions, and I figured I would just make one big video where I just answer all the FAQs that I get, and here we are. So thank you very much for supporting me, and check out the rest of my channel to see. I don't always do actuarial science things. I do also just talk about life in general. Share this with anyone who you feel wants to know more about actuarial science, whether it be your mom, your dad, yourself, your friends. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section below.